What's going on, guys? Welcome back to my Friday Night SmackDown audio review for June 16, 2023. I am Graham G. Matthews. Hope you guys are doing well, having a great weekend so far. Big episode of SmackDown last night, really for no other reason than we had the Usos finally defecting, as the headline I put in this video, from the Bloodline. The Usos defecting from the Bloodline on Friday night. Amazing segment to close out the show. Roman Reigns returns only to get thwarted by the Usos, thinking Jey Uso will finally fall in line. He did not, siding with his brother Jimmy, and they are gone from the Bloodline. The segment we have waited oh so long for, we got on SmackDown this week. I'll admit, I've said it here before, I said it here last week. I did not think we would get this segment so close to money. I mean, I honestly did not think we would get this segment, this Jey Uso choosing what side he aligns with, whatever, him finally leaving the Bloodline until at least Money in the Bank. Because I figured if we were getting, which we ended up made official as of the SmackDown Lowdown today, which I'll talk about in a separate video soon enough, a little bit later on today, the Usos are facing Roman and Solo Sikoa at Money in the Bank. I don't think that was ever really in doubt, but I did think that we would see Jey probably teaming with Jimmy, but like questioning if he can trust him, if they can coexist, telling that ever-old told story. But still, I thought that they might go with that dynamic. They did not. They fully defected from the Bloodline on Friday night, and the Usos are no longer in the Bloodline. The Bloodline is down to 3. Roman, Paul Heyman the Wise Man, and Solo Sikoa. So, great segment. We'll get to that momentarily. Really nothing else from this episode standing out whatsoever, even less so than in recent weeks. I was one of the people that had thoroughly enjoyed SmackDown in recent weeks, and I liked this episode, but a lot of stuff just felt rushed. I liked what we got from Charlotte and Bianca to set forward their feud and plant the seeds for that and whatnot. Going into Asuka, and Asuka was not on the show, by the way. Heading into Asuka and Charlotte for the, I almost want to say SmackDown Women's Championship. I have to get into the habit of calling it the WWE Women's Championship in 2 weeks on SmackDown. Another match made official for that show, by the way, via the Tag Team Gauntlet match, which was notable with who won and the ramifications on the line, but just not a great match. That was really all that there was to SmackDown, was the Bloodline stuff. The Roman Reigns return, the segments with them throughout the show, leading up to what we got at the end of the night. That was really about it. We'll go through it here match by match, segment by segment. So like the Grayson Waller Effect stuff I liked, but like the mixed tag team match, Vega and IYO SKY, Santos and LA Knight, all incredibly rushed. Even the fucking Gauntlet match, which got a little bit of time and ate up like the first quarter of the show. We had, 6 teams in there, I think? 4 of those matches were incredibly rushed. Not entirely complaining here, considering who the fuck was involved. The OC, I like the LWO, but they haven't really been positioned as anyone important so far. Fucking Hit Row, I'm not shocked, but like the Brawling Brutes versus the Profits, for example, probably could have lasted a little bit longer. Overall, I like the show, but largely because of what we got at the end of the show, and not really because of anything we got prior to that point. Again, I like the Grayson Waller Effect. We'll get into that. But everything else on the show is kind of ho-hum and felt very rushed. Maybe because they spent too much time on video packages or hype packages or whatever. But those 3 matches I mentioned, Vega and Sky, Kross, Scarlett, Styles and Michin, and then even Escobar and Knight, I don't think any of those 3 matches got beyond 5 minutes. And I'm not saying Vega and Sky would have been a barn burner, but that's probably because they devoted so much time to the Gauntlet. But even then, it felt like a rushed Gauntlet. And what I felt like I was watching was mostly commercials and throwaway matches. But that's just me. So let's talk about the Tag Team Gauntlet. The Brawling Brutes, represented by Sheamus and Ridge Holland, knocking off, in this order, the Profits in a matter of minutes, by the way. So the Profits kicked this thing off. I guess it's better than them being the 4th team in there and being beaten within a minute or 2. That would have been even worse because they would have been a fresh team, losing almost immediately. But it would have been nice had the match gone at least 5 to 7 minutes, if that. If not more than that. The Profits got beaten like 2.5 minutes. I thought that was pretty lame. After them, it was the OCs, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows. They lost fairly decisively and quickly. The LWOs, Cruz del Toro and Joaquin Wilde, losing also very, very quickly. And then Hit Row literally, so they had all the teams, by the way, to not waste any time. They were already standing ringside, which I actually liked. That was a nice touch. As opposed to hitting the music, they come out, blah, blah, blah. They were already around ringside. That is how bad this went down for Hit Row. I mean, the fact I'm not saying they should be, but the fact they have not been fired yet is honestly shocking to me. Maybe Triple H made a promise, they had him sign a 3-year deal or something. After they were fired unceremoniously by Vince McMahon 2 years ago, he probably said, hey, we'll bring you back for a couple of years. You feel like you'd feel bad if he let them go prior to that point, but he has done fucking nothing with these guys. Absolutely nothing. So that's how bad this was. Hit Row hit the ring, and as soon as the LWO match with Brawling Brutes ended, Hit Row hit the ring, and I think Ridge chucked Ashanti from the ring, and then Sheamus immediately as Top Dollar hit the ring, Sheamus connected with the bro kick, and it was over. He pinned him, and it was over. They were in there for probably 5 seconds. And they were the fresh team. Sheamus and Ridge had been in there for, 20 minutes, 25 minutes at that point? That's pretty fucking bad for Hit Row. Not saying I'm shocked or even disappointed. It's just kind of funny at this point. I think WWE is well aware they're a fucking awful undercard heel tag team, and I like Hit Row. I'm one of the few defenders of Hit Row. They're not a great team. I enjoy Hit Row, but the way they've been booked, no one gives a shit. And at this point, no one gives a fuck. They've just all but given up. Not Hit Row themselves. I mean, although it feels like it, WWE has given up on Hit Row, and that's been the case now for at least 6 months. But anyway, so it ended up being Pretty Deadly in there with the Brawling Brutes. I actually really like this because it made sense. Pretty Deadly coming in as the final team and opportunistically picking up the victory, I thought was great. Very characteristic of them. I like the line on commentary, by the way, from the little exchange between Michael Cole and Wade Barrett, where Michael Cole said, in so many words, Pretty Deadly told me that they are undefeated in Gauntlet matches. And Wade was like, oh yeah, see, like that bodes well for them here. And Michael Cole says, they've been in one, which got a good laugh out of me. The delivery of the line was great. And he's referencing the Tag Team Gauntlet match, actually, where Pretty Deadly became the... I'm thinking of... There was another match where they beat a couple teams a few months ago in NXT, and then Gallus came back and beat them. I don't think that was technically a gauntlet, though. I think those were just a series of matches. I don't think that was an official gauntlet. I could be wrong. But he's referencing the match where they won the NXT Tag Team titles in their NXT debut back in April of 2022. And they referenced that on SmackDown Lowdown, that they're former NXT UK Tag Team Champions, or they're former NXT Tag Team Champions. And they didn't win the titles here, but they did become the number one contenders to the Undisputed Tag Team Championship against Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn in 2 weeks on SmackDown in London. I don't think it's a Money in the Bank. I'm pretty sure it's on SmackDown in 2 weeks in London, along with Asuka and Charlotte Flair on that same show. Pretty exciting show. That's awesome, because I don't know if it's in the O2. I don't think it is. It might be. I don't remember. But it still will be in London. I don't think a live show. That would be 3 p.m. Eastern time. I'm pretty sure it airs on tape delay at 8 p.m. I'm pretty sure. But I thought this was perfect, though. Not only because of how I described it with Pretty Deadly being the opportunistic heels and whatnot, but they've also been feuding with Brawling Brutes for the last month now. They beat Ridge and Butch in their SmackDown in-ring debut several weeks ago. They beat them in a 6-man tag team match alongside Austin Theory a few weeks ago, and they also cost Sheamus the United States Championship. So the Brawling Brutes cannot fucking win a match to save their lives right now, which is fine. They can endure the losses. They'll be okay. I'm not even convinced Sheamus and Theory is 100% over. It might be. Doesn't really matter to me either way. Theory was not on the show. He beat Jey Uso in the main event of SmackDown last week. We did not hear anything from the United States Champion. That is how fucking directionless Austin Theory is right now. By the way, I completely forgot about this until the SmackDown Lowdown. Quick side note. We're getting Ronda and Shayna against, I almost said the Coven, but that's Impact. Very similar gimmicks. They're the Impact World Knockouts Tag Team Champions right now. We're getting Ronda and Shayna against Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in an undisputed women's tag team title match next week on SmackDown. And I don't think that was even fucking referenced on the show. Were they even on this show? Dawn, Fire, Rousey, or Baszler? Maybe they were and I missed it. I'm sure they promoted it and I just fucking missed it. I did not watch the show live. I watched it on DVR actually this morning, so I probably skipped over it, but I thought that was just funny thinking back on it now. So anyway, Pretty Deadly, the number one contenders to the tag team titles. They're getting over just fine. They had a great exchange afterward with Owens and Zayn on the mic. Very entertaining stuff for as long as it lasted. WWE is doing everything right so far with Pretty Deadly. And I was very... Is bullish the right word? That means like high on, right? I'm a fucking journalist and I should know this shit. I'm very high on Pretty Deadly. I was happy when they got called up to the main roster in the draft about a month and a half ago. And they've done well for themselves so far. They've been booked right. They won their first SmackDown match on the show a couple of weeks ago. They won the 6-man tag team match. They're on the show every single week. And they were on the show again this week, winning an important match and having a face-off, having mic time in the ring with the tag team champions, who are like two of the most over guys in the entire company right now. So I really like this opening to the show. The Gauntlet itself was complete throwaway up until the end. But I liked who won. I liked the finishing sequence. I liked the execution of that finish. And I also liked the post-match exchange, verbally, between Owen Zane and Pretty Deadly to set up their match in 2 weeks on SmackDown. We had Zelina Vega versus IYO SKY talking about setting up matches. They actually set this up on the SmackDown Lowdown last week, which I review here on the channel every single weekend. So more of a reason to check out my reviews. Cheap plug. But in all seriousness, I do like how they set up matches on that show to make it more meaningful. They don't typically do it often. It's something they could do more of. They do it every once in a while. But they did do it last week on the show, which I really, really liked. And that's how we came up with this match. So there really wasn't much to the match. It wasn't given much time. It was Vega and Sky, pretty standard stuff here. Vega winning off a distraction from Sky. Not really a distraction, but Sky was distracted and arguing with Bayley at ringside, who I think attempted to help IYO win. IYO didn't want it. They argued. Vega rolls up Sky and wins the match. So pretty standard stuff. Wasn't really about the match. Wasn't really about Vega winning, but rather more so teasing more tension between Damage CTRL, as they fucking should. Please pull the trigger at Money in the Bank. Split them up. Get Sky on her own. Have her win the briefcase. I'm not convinced she will, but that's what I would do. Speaking of Money in the Bank, Bayley and IYO were arguing afterward backstage. Kind of the same setup for this match on SmackDown Lowdown. Instead of happening on SmackDown, the show itself last night, they were arguing. Shotzi emerges. She says that she wants a shot, and you know, they're going back and forth. Bayley, if you're so confident that I don't belong in the match and you do, why don't you put your spot on the line against me in a match next week on SmackDown? And then IYO accepts on her behalf. So that match is made official. I would not take Bayley out of the match in favor of Shotzi. I think there is a chance. I think Shotzi is a complete stepping stone to this point, but I wouldn't be so sure that Shotzi will lose. Bayley is pretty bullish, there's that word again, on promoting the rest of the women's division and putting over other women and stuff like that in favor, like, over her. So there is a chance that she might lose her spot and then still get herself involved in the match anyway, costing the match a la CM Punk and Paul Heyman from 10 years ago at Money in the Bank. Very possible. So that match is set up for next week. We had the Grayson Waller Effect, and I've said this before. I think I said this here on the SmackDown review last week. I'm pretty sure he must be hurt. I haven't heard that officially anywhere. Maybe there was a report that I missed. Did Grayson Waller not get hurt in that NXT Championship match, his final match in the show about 2 months ago, like days before the draft? Did he not get hurt in that match, like suffer a concussion or something in that match with Carmelo Hayes for the NXT Championship? I'm sure that's probably why he hasn't wrestled yet. I mean, he is a good talk show host. I like the Grayson Waller Effect. I really like Grayson Waller. But I think it is a matter of time. We got to get him in the ring. We got Pretty Deadly in the ring on SmackDown, Fire and Dawn, all the call-ups, except him. I don't think he's wrestled yet. So hopefully we can get him in the ring soon. He's a great worker. You could really pick any number of opponents for him to face. It really doesn't matter. But he's just been in talk show mode for the last month and a half now. So he was kind of a non-factor in the segment itself. But Charlotte said that she is a champion without holding a championship. She doesn't need the title, but she comes back and fucking holds the title and goes for the championships anyway. She came across like a total heel here. Maybe that's the idea. Maybe it's supposed to be a Shades of Grey character with her and now Bianca. Either way, I like the exchange. Bianca came out looking great, taking no shit, saying, listen, and Charlotte even said, listen, I never got my rematch from Rhea Ripley from after I lost to her at WrestleMania. Rhea beat me for the SmackDown Women's Championship, and I never got a rematch, so neither did you. And Bianca says, yeah, you're right, but at the same time, I didn't disappear. I've been here, and I took what I thought was the right way in wanting my rematch and asking for it and waiting for my turn. I didn't just fucking disappear for 3 months, and Charlotte was like, oh, look for all I've done for the division, blah, blah, blah. The fact of the matter is this, Charlotte is not wrong when she says that she's done everything, she's beaten everyone, blah, blah, blah. But she did fucking take a 2 or 3 month vacation. And I think Charlotte's great, but in storyline, Bianca's not wrong. Charlotte took a vacation to herself, unless she was hurt and we just don't know it, which is also very possible. She disappeared for a couple months, and now she's back asking for a title shot. Nothing Charlotte here really even made any fucking sense, and maybe it wasn't supposed to. But Bianca comes across like the babyface here. Regardless, this slight aggressive, not aggressive nature from Bianca, but like whatever edge that they're giving her, I think is great. Like this new added layer to her character, I think is awesome. Charlotte will be Charlotte. I'm not making excuses, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. You kind of get what you get character-wise from Charlotte. I like the setup here. You would think, honestly, if Charlotte, I thought that this is where they were going with this. Charlotte was like, well, I never got my rematch, and neither did you. I thought she was going to say, well, then just get involved, and we'll make it a triple threat. They didn't do that. It's still Charlotte and Asuka, one-on-one in 2 weeks on SmackDown for the WWE Women's Championship. So, I understand what they're doing here. Bianca's pissed that she's not in the match, and Charlotte's getting a shot before her. I like that. But at the same time, though, it's like, why the fuck would an Adam Pearce, from a storytelling standpoint, not put Bianca in the match based on everything she said here? They're just giving her more ammo to fucking snap and turn heel and just go ballistic on everyone, which I'm not complaining about. The mixed tag team match was complete throwaway. It literally got like 2 or 3 minutes. Like, not that no one cared, but I mean, it didn't really seem like anyone cared. Karrion Kross and Scarlett just aren't over, and I like them, but they're just not over. This went barely 3 minutes. Kross would have lost pretty fucking quickly had it not been for Scarlett. Kross got hit with the Styles Clash and pinned by AJ within the first minute and a half of this match, and Scarlett broke it up. This felt very rushed. We didn't really see nearly enough of Scarlett to get a grasp of like what she could do in the ring. This was, I think, her only second ever match on WWE television. She never wrestled on TV in NXT, and the only other match she's had on SmackDown was a mixed tag team match alongside Karrion Kross against Ridge Holland and Emma a number of months ago. So she didn't really do much here. Karrion and Scarlett won, which I'm glad about. If Kross loses his singles rematch with AJ coming up, then again, this was for nothing. Like, who cares? I was going to say I probably would have had Scarlett pin Michin. I take that back, though. Kross needs wins. Scarlett isn't a wrestler. Karrion Kross is. So I'm glad Karrion pinned AJ. AJ really hasn't amassed a number of important, including over Karrion, hasn't amassed a number of monumental wins for this one to really mean anything, because Styles himself, although decorated and established and accomplished, also really hasn't meant anything in quite a while. So this isn't like a massive win, but a win is a win. That was really all that I really liked about this. Santos Escobar was out next with Rey Mysterio, who brought him out to the ring, and he said one of the best things he's ever done in his career, basically, was reforming the LWO. And Santos comes out, and you could tell what he said, like, genuinely meant a lot to him. And he said that, thank you so much for accepting me and putting me in this group, blah, blah, blah. A nice heartfelt moment interrupted by LA Knight. And I was hoping LA Knight would go back and forth with Rey and Santos. That was my hope here, because I never remembered LA Knight and Santos being made official for the show. Maybe they announced it earlier in the episode. I thought this was a bit random. They're in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match together. I just don't remember the setup for this match happening. Maybe, again, it was announced earlier in the show and I just missed it. But LA Knight interrupts. Instead of going after Santos, he actually face plants and takes down, or pushes, shoves, whatever, shoves Rey Mysterio down to the ground. Santos does not like that. That leads to a match between the two that I think, again, was already announced. Coming out of the commercial break, it got mere minutes. These two are capable of much more. And this was good, but it was way too fucking short. LA Knight attempted to cheat to win. Santos, I would say, turnabout is fair play. He didn't cheat to win, though. LA Knight was going to, and I thought Santos might, which would have made, he's a heel, and again, turnabout is fair play. I'm glad he did not, though. He actually rolled into it or whatever, and just rolled up Santos or LA Knight or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Grabbed his legs and pinned him clean. So LA Knight lost, although he laid out Santos afterward, ditched the ring before Rey Mysterio could come in. So you would think that they were setting up LA Knight and Rey for next week or an upcoming episode, and they've done that match before, and LA Knight lost, of course, before WrestleMania, but I would not be opposed to getting it again. So this really did not do anything aside from just remind you that these two guys are in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and it could have been a lot better with more time. It just felt like they were shortchanged on this show because they wanted to give the opening segment and the final segment all the time that it needed. We also saw Baron Corbin lay out Cameron Grimes backstage. That was quick, short, sweet, to the point. Also rushed. Corbin just means fucking nothing, but I don't mind the idea of the feud, even though Corbin's also pulling double duty in NXT right now. Whatever. So the final segment of the show was what I said earlier. The Bloodline implosion. The Usos finally defecting, not deflecting, from the Bloodline in the final segment of the show. The setup here was great. Roman gets a whole 10-minute entrance, then they go to commercial, which I thought was funny. I got to mention this. I tweeted this. I've had a lot of responses saying, oh, it makes sense, or it's fine, or this reason, that reason. It's not like... It's annoying, but it doesn't, bother me, if that makes sense. It's just this is so fucking absurd. Roman Reigns is still coming out with the Universal and WWE Championship belts. He has 3 fucking toy belts that he comes out with, holding his new belt that he was awarded last week, or 2 weeks ago, rather. And Heyman still has the other 2 belts. So, dude, this is completely fucking ridiculous. This is past the point of pure comedy. Maybe not past that point, it is pretty funny. But it's dude, this is one of those things where it's what is even the point here? I had a lot of people responded on Twitter saying, oh, that's because Roman, it's in his character, he's Thanos. That's like carrying around a fucking expired credit card. They're not real titles. This is the point. This is probably why I wouldn't have even, I know he's a 1,000-day champion, blah, blah, blah. This is probably why I wouldn't have even given him a new championship until after he loses the belt. Because they want to still, per WWE.com, or 2 weeks in now, I think this is the case, they're still continuing the reigns of the Universal and WWE titles. When Roman loses that belt, and that's only because, one, they don't want to end Roman's 1,000-day run, but they also don't want to retire the WWE title lineage. It's a lose-lose. I mean, the Universal title, who gives a fuck? But the reign that Roman's has had as champion is with that specific title, not the WWE. I know they say, 1,000-day running, undisputed WWE Universal Champion. No, it's as the Universal Champion. So they can't retire it yet until the run is over. Realistically, the run should be over, and they should just continue the WWE title lineage, but they don't want to end the run. That's the problem. This is why they should have never fucking merged the belts in the first place, but again, whatever. He's still coming out with those 2 titles. It looks ridiculous. The Thanos thing, listen, he is the Thanos of WWE. But that's like Thanos taking, it's like the same stone. I'm looking at my Infinity Gauntlet, my toy Infinity Gauntlet right in front of me, my fucking, the Iron Man one from Endgame. They're 5 or 6 different stones on the knuckles and in the middle. They're all different stones. They're not the same fucking thing. His belts are different colors, but they're all the same title. They're all the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That is fucking ridiculous. They need Adam Pearce out there to say, listen, realistically, you would just take those 2 titles away. But it's not like Rhea's out there holding her Raw Women's Championship and the WWE World Women's title, or Asuka, same thing. It's 2 different championships. It's the same fucking title. Different belts, same title. What's the difference here? There's no difference. And if that's the point, that it's ridiculous, then they need to acknowledge that it's ridiculous. They need to have Michael Cole complaining, why does he have 3 belts? He's 1 champion. Because honestly, it just sends the message that he has 3 times as many titles as Rollins has. So Rollins is a loser, and Roman is the man, which is the case. Not that Rollins is a loser. He's already many steps above Rollins as World Heavyweight Champion. Based on the perception, this company is doing themselves no favors. But again, if they twist this in storyline to say he doesn't have those titles, like he doesn't need those championships, why does he carry them with them? Then, okay, I get it. But I don't think they said that last night. Adam Pearce never came out or didn't say to them, because he had the 2 title belts earlier on the show during a backstage segment. I'm thinking, why? That makes no sense. If they acknowledge, listen, you should not be holding those belts, and Roman says, well, fuck you, I'm just going to carry them anyway because they're mine, that's just, then I get it. But what they're going for now is that he's like a 3-time current champion. He has 3 different titles, although he doesn't. The 2 titles were one thing because they weren't the same run. They weren't the same reign. The title that he now holds is a merged version of the other 2 belts. Come on, dude. It's ridiculous. Can we just say that? It's fucking dumb. It's ludicrous that this is even a thing. It doesn't bother me. I know I went on for it for a couple minutes. I'm just trying to explain how silly this whole fucking thing is. Anyway, Jey Uso kind of conflicted. Roman says that you've main evented SmackDown, you've main evented pay-per-views because of me. Jay agrees and does not agree with Jimmy. Because Roman says, because Jimmy ends up coming out, and Roman says, well, he was the one that wasn't on board with you becoming right-hand man in the first place. They frame this as if Jay did not know that. And I mean, obviously he turned on Roman, so maybe he would come out next week and say, listen, I'm not a fucking idiot. Of course he was against it because he didn't want me to join your manipulative ass. I thought this was something that was already established to the entire audience 2 years ago when Jimmy came back, exactly 2 years ago. And Jimmy came back and said, I'm not a fan of you falling in line. Why are you doing this shit? He's beating the fuck out of you. Why are you falling in line? And then obviously Jimmy fell in line too. Maybe that was the idea. Maybe we'll find out more from Jay next week. Hopefully they explain that. Because it was a little weird that Jay seemingly agreed with everything that Roman said here and was opposing Jimmy and then turned on him anyway. Him turning on Roman was what had to happen. And it makes sense, but the way they set it up was like all about the surprise of it. So does he come out next week and say, I was just kidding, like I was lying and it was all a ruse? Or does he say, listen, Jimmy, I do agree with everything I said. I do agree with Roman, but he's also fucking manipulative and we don't belong with him and we shouldn't be with him. He's been using us this entire time, blah, blah, blah. Regardless, the segment was awesome. As soon as he super kicked Roman, perfectly executed, as Martin Scorsese would say, fucking cinema. Maybe without the fucking in there. I guess maybe depending on the movie that he's making, but nonetheless. Great segment, setting up again, like I said earlier, as made official on the SmackDown Lowdown that aired earlier today, that I'll get to momentarily here on the channel. Roman and Solo against the Usos in tag team action at the pay-per-view. No title on the line, again, but the match is compelling enough where I can't really excuse it, but at least the match is worth looking forward to. So this should be sexy. I love this. Great ending. I was not expecting Jay to make his definitive decision before the pay-per-view. He did. Everyone's saying it started with Jay. It ends with Jay. It did start with Jay. It may end up ending with Jay because we still have SummerSlam. I don't think they do a Bloodline 4-way. But do they do Roman against Jay at SummerSlam or Roman against Jimmy? Or maybe both. I don't know. I mean, they're kind of doing that on Money in the Bank, so probably not both in like a handicap match or a triple threat wouldn't even really make sense. I honestly would just do Jimmy. I would save Jay for down the road for when Roman's not champion. I still am not convinced Jay takes those belts from Roman. I honestly wouldn't even do that anyway. Anyone saying, oh, it'd be a great moment, and like that's all it would be is a moment. I feel like whoever beats Roman has got to be the guy, or at least someone they're positioning to be the guy. Jay winning the belts is a great moment. Does he benefit? Does he become a main eventer? No, he's not a main event player. I love Jay. He's amazing. Give the guy all the fucking Oscars for his performance in this segment. Call me a hater, and I love Jay. I just don't think he's the guy, and he never will be a perennial main event player in this company. He just won't be. Maybe upper mid-card? Maybe. It's main event Jay after all. I don't think he's a guy that can hold the championship for a number of months. He would probably hold it for a month and they would give it to someone else. Even if a month, that might be being generous. They would probably just have whoever wins Money in the Bank cash in on him, and then we're back to a heel champion. So I would not do that. I stand by it being Cody. That's just me. So anyway, love the final segment. The rest of the show was kind of no great matches, a lot of rushed matches. The Gauntlet was pretty throwaway. Like the outcome. What we got from Charlotte and Bianca was well done. Great progression there. We got a unification match next week. Maybe when Ronda and Shayna, when they continue to carry the NXT tag titles, because they also don't know how it works like Roman Reigns. But it's going to be Ronda and Shayna against Fire and Dawn for both the WWE and NXT women's tag team titles. Unification match, not winner take all. They called it unification. So we will have one set of women's tag team champions, as we should, coming out of next week's SmackDown, thank God. I think they also set up, like I said, Bayley and Shotzi. If Shotzi wins, she takes Bayley's spot in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. And then in 2 weeks, a big SmackDown in London, less than 24 hours before the pay-per-view itself and Money in the Bank weekend. It's going to be, like I said, pretty deadly challenging Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn for the undisputed WWE Tag Team titles. They're from London, so it's awesome that they're getting their shot there. And Asuka will defend the WWE Women's Championship against Charlotte Flair one-on-one. And Bianca, I assume, will get involved some way, somehow. Good stuff here. Enjoyed the show. Not a great show because the middle of it was pretty throwaway, kind of rush shit, but it was made worthwhile by that final segment alone. Amazing stuff. Thank you guys for checking out my SmackDown audio review for June 16th, 2023. I appreciate it. Be sure to like the video, drop a comment, share the video, and subscribe to the channel for more daily content. Check out my SmackDown Lowdown review coming up at some point, probably a little bit later on today. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.